right, traders, let's dig in. This video is a time freedom trading toolbox tutorial that will allow you to understand how to set up Trader Workstation in StreamDeck to give you the advantage of doing one click or entering a trade with one click. If you ever had the opportunity to try and enter a trade and you stumble within your broker's page, or you don't know how many contracts to buy, or you're basically reacting to the breakout move and you're scrambling to determine how much to put at risk, how do you set a limit order, where do you put your stop, etc., etc. All of those criteria to what you should do in following your rules to execute your edge. We can now make that all pre-programmed with a combination of Interactive Brokers, Trader Workstation, quick keys, as well as using Elgato StreamDeck. And it's really simplified. It's actually pretty sexy. And I think once you see how we use it, you'll want to make that part of your trading program and regimen as well. So let's dig in. All right, traders. With the benefits of a system like the time freedom trading system, you have all the elements you need to be successful. One of the things that we want to dive into for this video is the time freedom trading toolbox, which is really a repository of assets that allows you to be able to work with tools, proven templates, tutorials like this, and really define your process of tasks and strategies to be effective in the market. What we're doing within this tutorial is showcasing how you can use Interactive Brokers Trader Workstation environment with quick keys to facilitate and execute trades. Now, within that, it also means that you are creating a disciplined environment for executing your trades, i.e. you are defining your trades up front for the amount that you're putting at risk. What is your entry and exit strategy? And what is your defined risk for the trade, i.e. how much money you're willing to lose? And so by implementing this system, you inherently set up that process before the market opens, before you look to click on a trade, and it minimizes the impulses that you might take. Now, the reverse is also true, which is the ability to hit one button to get in and out of a trade means the propensity to overtrade is there. So the goal is to show you how simple it is to use Trader Workstation with Interactive Brokers. Now, it's not perfect. The software does have some innuendos that are somewhat complicated and don't make sense, but we're going to try and simplify those for you today. The second part of your toolkit within this is the layout and the workflow for using the StreamDeck by Elgato. It's about $200 bucks or so for the XL, which is the 32 key unit, which I strongly recommend. Here is a blow up of how I use the Elgato StreamDeck specifically for buying stocks and options. I've found this workflow to be effective because it's flexible and it allows me to leg in and out depending upon the size, the number of contracts, shares, etc., as well as allows me to trade specifically in the chart with some of the key functions that we'll go through here in a minute. I have not needed to change this much, even with scale. For larger trade size or trading accounts. This seems to be a pretty good layout. You can customize it as needed. I'll make available the button graphics and the layout, but it is somewhat tedious to set up at first. But once you have it programmed, it's pretty flawless. I have not had any issues with Elgato. With the hardware, really solid build. I think when you pick one up, you'll see how sturdy it's built. It's designed for, a long longevity of use, and it's definitely hardened from a hardware perspective. So, have not had any issues for the last 2.5 years that I've been using it. So let's dive into the actual software demo, and we'll look at IBKR first for the functionality that we'll need to configure the layout. All right, what we want to do is we want to dig into TWS a little bit and understand the setup of how we use the presets before we can connect TWS to the StreamDeck. We have to set all of our presets and quick keys up correctly. And so, word of warning or word of caution, you have to program TWS on the paper trading side first, test out the functionality, make sure that the presets and quick keys don't overlap or they're not confused, if you will, and all your settings are correct. I would test it for a couple days on practice trades, and then you have to repeat the programming on the for money side or your profit side of IBKR TWS. Pain in the I know, but it allows you to test everything first and then replicate it on the money side. So it's almost again another belts and suspenders approach. So let's take a look at again our setup, and we're going to dig into what we can do to look at the presets. So let me zoom in here. And what you want to be able to do initially is you've got multiple areas where you can trade inside of IBKR. Now, I have a pre-programmed button on my StreamDeck, which is a preset button, and you can press it twice when you're in the range. So let's start with first setting presets within the option chain. So you have a control key, Control H to configure what they call hotkeys. This is the hotkey window that pops up, and there's a couple things that you want to know the difference of between hotkeys, presets, and what hotkeys are general, which is in this global configuration, and then you want to set up hotkeys within specific areas in TWS, specifically the option chain, as well as the watch list and the trading dashboard that you're going to use. But the first step we want to do is we want to go into presets. In here, you will have different asset classes. So you can trade stocks, options, future contracts, warrants, etc. The only two that I really use are both the three options, future contracts, as well as stocks specifically. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to click on options. In here, it will show you what is our predetermined quantity size. And I have it set to an amount. And the reason why you want it to be an amount is you want to, depending upon what asset class or price of option you're buying, you want to be able to have a fixed amount of dollars at risk for your trade size. So here you would enter your trade size. For example, I'm using $10,000 for a trade size, just for the purpose of visualization. But the idea is to go in and type in that amount and make sure it is selected as amount, not contracts and not all available equity. Okay, or all available size. Sorry, we want it to be amount. So that's now $1. And every time you select an asset that you want to trade on, IBKR will automatically calculate what is the number of shares, or in this case on options, contracts. Okay. The rest of this I would not use. Now you can experiment with this, but what happens is these secondary orders then bracket your initial order. And so every time you execute an order, it's going to automatically attach those brackets. So if you want to enter or exit, you're going to get a confusing bracket order. So I would not use any of the subsequent settings here. You can just leave them as factory default, and they should not be active, but the only one we want to use is the quantity and size. Okay. Same thing for stocks. You'll see the same setup, and it's defaulted at $10,000, but I can change that specificity. Say we want to do 20,000, or I want to trade on margin. If you want to do 1, 2, 3x margin, depending on the asset, like Apple, sometimes you can get 4x on an intraday trade. You can use margin and up this number for your contract specifically. So just to be clear, these are different settings that you can have based upon the stock or the option. And I'll show you that in real time here in a second. And the other feature that you can do is you can set predefined quantity for specific stocks. So here I have AMD, Tesla, TQQQ, where I can set a different amount of buying shares, if you will. So it just shows you the flexibility of the tool. But for what I found effective is, as a trader, you want to plan your trade at risk. You don't want to overtrade your balance. But you do want to have the flexibility depending on the asset class you trade. So stocks are a little bit different, but for options, I always want to have a fixed amount of risk on an option, especially if you're trading near dated options that could expire that day or the next day. You don't want to overcommit because your confidence or your head got too big. So let's stick to our rules. We'll stick with a $10,000 trading account size for that selection, and we will select options for the demonstration we're going to show today. So what you'll see here is we have selected in the option chain the ability to trade $10,000 as our trade size. And what you'll notice is if I drag this strike of 376, which is near the money, near at the money, and I move it into, take that contract and move it into my watch list, now I'm trading 57 contracts at $1.78. So if we do the math, 57 contracts times $1.78 times 100 is 10,146. So you'll either get filled somewhere around that $10,000 range, or you'll get executed on 56 contracts as an example to get in on the trade. It's typically, depending on how fast the bid ask is moving, that number can change. But here I'm going to click on an underlying asset, which is stock. And now it changes to $20,000, which was the setting that we had set in our presets for buying a stock asset class, not an option. If I click back to the option contract, it's going to show me that we now are trading 54 contracts. So it calculates on demand and can show you the potential. After we have set our preset, our next stop is programming the hotkeys. And keep in mind that there are two different areas that you can do hotkeys. One being the option chain and the other being the watch list, which is configured up here under the general configuration for the application. So let's look at hotkeys under the option, and you can see here you have to program each quick key accordingly. And so here I have my initial buy button, which is what I always buy with, which is programmed to be a limit plus one tick with a stop. So I can record, and that Control B button is what is then programmed on the StreamDeck to execute only that hotkey. To customize the actual order, this is very important, is you want to have it set up to be able to buy, default, limit order, because you're specifying a limit, and you're buying at the ask, because again, you're initiating the option contract, and you want to buy 1 or 2 ticks. And what that means is you're going to get filled with the best price. But if price is moving, and by the time you hit the button, price may move 1 or 2 ticks before you get filled. And I've had several times where I have not gotten filled because I had this set to 0. So you might want to overpay for a tick or two just to make sure you get in. On the other side, you have two different choices for your profit taker as well as your stop order. Now, you don't have to execute these. You can just have a stop order to catch your trade, if you will, on the downside, and then ride your stop up if you want. But I always like to have both, and then again, catch the IV as we pop up into a price range or a support resistance area. But the net on this is, and this is no hard rule, but I have a 30% target as a starting point. But my 10% down is what's critical. I want to know where 10% down is on the option when I enter. And if I'm typically with a bid-ask spread, or if I catch a red candle on the entry, I could be down 3, 5, 6% as soon as I hit entry. So I'm fighting to get back to zero, or my break-even point, and I want to know where that 10% number is so that I don't let it fall beyond that. Now, that may be too tight for some people. You can let it on larger options for very volatile stocks that are swinging for a full day, or on a 55-minute chart. You may adjust that to a 15 or 20% drawdown, but you have to be aware of, okay, what is your trade size and what is the effective P&L that you're trying to achieve on your risk management. And that correlates with what you also do in eSignal on the chart. But again, for the purposes of this video, we're just looking at how to integrate IBKR with StreamDeck to execute your trade. So on the P&L side, for managing your money in TWS, these are the settings I begin with, and then I can manipulate those as the trade goes on. The one thing you want to stay true to is don't move your stop. Once you set it, commit to it, because as the trade starts to go against you, you mentally will say, well, let me let it slide a little bit further because it's going to bounce. Or you'll start coming up with reasons to stay in the trade, and you'll continue to let your profits erode. You don't want to go down that slippery slope of moving your stop. So once you set your stop, frame the trade and let the trade play out. The last component, or this red area, is you want to transact the order instantaneously. Now, what happens if you don't check this? You will get a pop-up window that asks you to confirm your order. So now we're adding more clicks to our entry and exit. And if we're truly trading within the chart, we should be able to see that our order entry is correct. We are trading within our edge. We're trading within our system and in our rules. So I want that order to execute instantly, because I want to get in at the best price I can at the beginning of the move, right? I don't want to get in a couple minutes later, or, as price has advanced and moved past the 3X that we're entering on. Now I'm trading at risk of a pullback. And so that can immediately stop you out, especially if you're running a really tight stop loss. So those are some of the things to think about as you set these hotkeys. And so I have several of these set up for demonstration purposes. You will need to program all of them on the paper trading side, and then program them on the real money side of IBKR. So you'll have to duplicate the effort. That is the one difficulty in setting this up. But once they're set, they are locked, if you will, from an operations perspective. The other button that I use in IBKR is the close position button. And this basically gets you out at a limit order for the current price. And so there's a couple ways that you can use this. Shift C is to close, but you want to be able to close out your entire position. And so that is one of the keys that we use as well. And so we'll show you how all these buttons are configured on the StreamDeck in just a minute. But being able to go through the whole list and create the appropriate orders is what is going to take the time to program. But it's pretty straightforward. Again, you have to program the hotkeys specifically for the option chain. And then you can do that in the general configuration for trading in a watch list as well. All right, for this section, we want to look at the StreamDeck in detail and understand the functionality for the layout. What we've tried to do is make this unit as flexible as possible so that we can not only go long as well as short, but also buy options as well as stocks, specific, regardless, or trade them interchangeably using our system and the quick keys that we have set up into IBKR. So we'll start with the first most important one is the preset button. Then that'll pull up your preset definition areas in the application of IBKR, and it gives you the ability to go in and set your presets like we did in the previous section, as well as your stop and buy orders, as well as sell limits, etc. It's pretty self-explanatory for what the buttons do: buy one contract or buy one share, all the way up to 1,000. Obviously, you wouldn't do that for option contracts realistically, but you will do in blocks for stock. So the ability to be able to buy or sell gives you the flexibility to say, okay, I'm going to take 100 shares of X stock, and I can leg out with 50 or 20 shares at a time as I'm profitable in an intraday trade or a multi-day trade. So it gives you the flexibility to do both. What's unique about this setup is we have the ability to add sell limits, sell stop, and buy limit commands inside of the IBKR chart. And so I want to take you through that because that's probably one of the most beneficial things that you can do trading with this configuration. So here we have our demonstration layout. We have two actions that we've assigned to our primary entry and exit buttons. And those is a multi-action setup that you can do for long plus record. And I use this to record every one of my trades. And you have the ability to then just add a specific hotkey for long, and that's Control B. And then I also hit record, which is Alt R for the application I use to record my screen. And then the same is on the exit, right? I'm using close. So the system hotkey for close order is Shift C. And again, record Alt R to end the recording at the same time. So the entry and exit allows me to trigger the recording. Now, these quick keys should be mapped out ahead of time so you're not overlapping or confusing them. Each one is going to be specific, like Control 1 for buy 1. I have Control 5, but for 10, I have Control T as an example. For buying 20, I have Control 2. And again, the goal is not to have to memorize these, but to set them up so that they don't overlap. Control 50 is Control F, Control 100 is Control O, and 1000 is a Control K as an example. And so that's how I have it set up on the reverse. But for sell, I'm using Shift rather than Control, right? So a 1 versus a 1 is a way to do it. Sell, Shift 5 as an example. So I keep them consistent across both sell and buy orders. And it's critical to write this out, even though it's tedious, but it helps you to make sure you write the same functionality both on the paper trading side as well as the for-profit side using Trader Workstation. Now let's get to the specific buttons for sell limit and buy limit. Buy stop and sell stop. And what these are the ability to, whether you're long or short, be able to put a line in the chart so that you can execute that command based upon a position in the chart, not you manually entering numbers. So I've got these two graphics here just for visualization so that it is going up or bullish and reversal or going down as an example. So let's jump over to IBKR and I can show you what that order structure looks like. So here we have our dashboard, if you will, for this tutorial. And there's a couple of things that I recommend. One is there's an inherent workflow in how I teach time freedom traders to trade, which is you can trade the chart using charting software like eSignal, which is what this window is pulling from, and I'll explain why we use that specifically. But then the layout for IBKR, Trader Workstation, is so that you have a consistent workflow that you execute every time as you get closer to executing a trade with your edge, and then making your steps or process to get in and out of a trade repetitive and consistent every time. You don't want variability in your workflow. So what we're doing within Trader Workstation, and I advise you put this on a dedicated monitor so that it is up and visible to you at all times. And the goal is to be able to make sure you have the ability to have what I call a parachute, or an emergency exit, a panic button, if you will. You can execute things in the trade, but I will always want to be able to have access to this sell button to hit a market order in case something erroneous happens. In addition to the strategy that we're setting up, I strongly advise you to always have an emergency stop loss in your trades, so that if you were to lose internet connection, if you were to lose power, I've had monitors die on me while I'm in a trade. I've had software glitches, your internet feed goes out, you name it, Murphy Law can kick in. And so you want to be able to have what I would call belts and suspenders approach to trading as you take on trades, especially as you get up in size. And so this workflow allows you to work from the bottom to the top. And as the trade becomes more complete, you now have a very simple process of monitoring the trade in real time, and then working through and simplifying what it is that you're seeing on the screen. So we're going to dive into that in just a second. A couple things we're looking at. So at the bottom of the screen, I have a simple watch list, and typically every morning before the market opens, I like to see who's moving or who has a potential setup from the day before. And so I can add specific stocks into here, and those are the only ones I'm looking at to watch and see what is the percent change from open, what are they changing from the day before, etc. And so that's a way for me to stay very focused on what couple of 2 or 3 setups that I'm looking for the day, as well as the QQQ. For today's example, we'll use the Qs as a consistent technique for trading weekly options, and I'll show you that profit potential as we get deeper into the trade. The next window above this is the option chain, and you should be familiar with an option chain. This is customized for what we want to see, which is specifically understanding what delta is at what strike. Now, my workflow for trading with this method is I like to be able to select my delta, highlight over the contract, and then have my finger ready on my StreamDeck to hit enter. And so the ability to be able to just hover and wait for your entry really calms your thought process down. All right, here we have a potential setup for a trade. What you're seeing or looking at directly is basically the opening price here. We can zoom out, you can see your volume here, and we're setting up for a potential bounce. Don't know if we have the volume or the price action to do it, but anyway, we're going to do it for the sake of this demo. And what we're looking at is we have both our option contract as well as the underlying QQQ asset. And so being able to see this price action in tandem is really a benefit as a trader. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the bottom up. We're selecting the Qs. We're on next Tuesday's option, which is the next setup. We're getting a 3X on the 3-minute chart, and we're looking to get a little bit of a rally coming into the lunch hour here. So we're going to grab this 376 contract. Here you can see my finger. I've got it set up. I can automatically enter my contracts to enter to get in, and we're going to go ahead and make that entry into the trade.
Order partially filled.
So let's bring it back to the contract, and you can see a couple things happening here. One, you've got immediately turning green because we're capturing the turn, or capturing the corner, if you will. But you can also see that I have a stop loss immediately set, as well as a profit taker. Now, those are set at predetermined prices, percentages actually, that we showed you earlier. And you can see side by side, the contract is starting to go positive briefly. And if we zoom back out, we can see that we're up 1.6, close to 2%, if we can continue this rally here going into the middle of the lunch hour here. And so what's nice about this is I can zoom in again, and as I go positive, I have the ability to ride a trailing stop. Now the challenge is price can sneak around here a little bit as we fill out the candles on the 3-minute chart, and you can see we'll get a little bit of a pullback here. So you want to make sure you walk that line up correctly. On a more volatile day and getting a breakout, you'll really get a nice strong move, and it'll allow you to lock in a 5 or 10% gain. But the idea is to be able to have both your sell limit and your sell stop all within one click, which we just showed you. So we're looking to make a move up here as the chart continues to play out. You can see the movement in the option price as well as the underlying. We're hitting, it looks like the 50 MA on the 3-minute chart as a little bit of a resistance. Oh, sorry, that's the middle Bollinger Band. I stand corrected. So we'll see if we've got enough momentum. Looks like we've got some liquidity sitting right here. So we may get a little bit of sell pressure, but I think we've got enough momentum to push through into the half hour. Well, you can see here we're up 9, almost 10% on this move. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate here how to let it hit your stop loss and execute the trade. So if I want to drag my stop loss down, I can zoom in a little bit and say, look, I want to get, can I get out at 232? Which could be a target price within this liquidity zone. So I just need a little bit of a rally to pop me up. And we'll see if we get that move. Looks like we're coming up on the bottom of the half hour. And one of the things you can note typically in summer trading is you'll see profit taking or algos that'll hit within the last 10 minutes of the half hour. And so we'll see if we get a pullback into 12:30 our time. But I still think we still want to go here based upon the action of the 3-minute chart. But like I said, we've got some liquidity here that is providing us resistance at the time.
Order partially filled.
So we're trying to trigger.
Order cancelled.
So there, just
Order
punched
filled.
me out. Everything was filled. No action on my part. It deleted the existing bracket order. And you can see that that was an effective trade for being able to get a small lunchtime move on the half hour as we came to the bottom of support for the day.
It's the With Time Freedom Report with your freedom trader, the Bald Bull.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The markets, the moves, the money. From Wall Street to Main Street, streaming live, this is the WTF Report.
What the